I can tell you one thing. I've only watched the last episode once, and it was the night we watched it. I still haven't went back and watched it. Not because I didn't like it, but I don't know. I took a break. I've been kind of out of it. I want to get back into it though. So.
I've watched the finale maybe a couple more times, so maybe like 3 times total. So the night we recorded, the following day, and then at some point later that week. But I've watched like different scenes multiple times since then. So
actually,
like especially like the Stark montage at the end. I've watched that several times.
Yeah, I should say I haven't watched the whole thing through more than once, but I have went back and I watched like the first half, and I while going to sleep, like I was like laying down, and and then I've watched some scenes like that. But as far as sitting through it, I've only done it once, and that was that night. But I don't know. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think it's let's just start there. Let's say that. Do you think this is going to be a season that you're going to go back and watch a lot?
Well, I'm not sure, because even with season 7, and I did this with season 8 and 6. I rewatched each episode as they came out, because I caught up right before season 6. So I watched all those episodes like 3 or 4 times, each time. But I haven't sat through, went back and sat through an entire season, except for season 1. I've done that with season 1, just getting people into it. But I want to do a rewatch sometime soon. So I don't know. I don't really know. I can't really say how it holds up to other seasons, I guess. Because typically what I'll do is I'll watch, because sometimes there's filler episodes where not a lot happens, and those are typically not the ones I want to sit through and watch, because I already know what happens. So unless I'm looking for certain characters, or how the show handled certain characters, I'm not gonna watch certain episodes typically. So I don't know, I'm talking in circles, but yes, I do. I think this one is rewatchable just because it is sped up so much, but especially if The Wind's a Winner comes out, and, A Dream of Spring, maybe these episodes, season 8 will probably be it'll probably be a lot more rewatchable, just because it jumps so much that, and season 7 too, both of those jump so much. It's not really great storytelling, but if the books are out, you can really see where they were getting some of their inspiration, and
yeah, I like that. In as you said, that especially if Winds and Dream come out, I think there'll be a lot of rewatching seasons 6 and 7 and 8.
Yeah, and 5, I think too.
Just to see what were the changes, what did they get from the outline, and how do the two compare? I mean, we've heard some other folks in the fandom, both in podcasts and on Twitter, talk about that quite extensively, like trying to figure out what's really in these final seasons that's pulled directly from the outline George gave them, what's invented or what's changed because they have different characters in different situations. I mean, leading up to this season, we were told that they're going to end in very similar places. And there's a lot going on right now in the fandom of going back and rereading and starting to see, people are seeing the clues that are laid for King Bran that maybe they didn't see before, or that they didn't really know what it was trying to tell them. So I think that's going to be very interesting. Just to stick on this, and then I've actually thought up a few questions here that I think can focus our attention. So First of all, we're back. It's Planetos podcast. We're going to kind of keep things pretty informal here tonight. And
also, we are back on Twitter. I mean, most people already know, but actually, Travis, you should explain that real quick.
So we ended up taking a longer break than we anticipated. I think part of it was self-inflicted because me, an old dummy, logged onto our this was, I think, just a few days after the season finale or series finale aired.
It was, which made it worse because people just thought we were gone.
Right. I logged on and I saw that our birthday was listed as August 1st, 1996, which was the publication date of A Game of Thrones. And I think that's why I chose that when I originally set up the podcast Twitter. And I thought, that's not right. Who would put August 1st, 1996? And I even thought, why would Brett do that? That's crazy. So I changed it and then instantly got locked out. And it was a good 8 or 9 days that the Twitter was locked out. And we had many friends saying, hey, what the hell happened to Planetos podcast?
And I want to say that is the worst
it was terrible
timing. Google will respond to you super. I mean, they're Google, but I mean, Twitter's big enough. Like, come on, Twitter. If I think anybody that works for Twitter, get on it.
What you said was right. I think it's one of those like instant firewalls that immediately locks something.
Yeah, that's
and
what it was.
Probably get so many of those that I'm not defending Twitter here, God, but it was just kind of ridiculous that something that can instantly lock you out should also have some kind of. I mean, I had to upload a copy of my driver's license, which I did within an hour, and it still took that long. I mean, there should be some way to verify the information on that.
And what makes it worse is like they say like we got this email that said no other submissions will be accepted or looked at. So you just have to wait. Like there's no like number you can call to. You just have to wait. Yeah. There's no live chat.
There's no live chat, nothing. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is indicative of Travis Mollahan's life because my wife, I get myself into so many situations where if I would just stop for a minute, like I do really good work under pressure, but then I also do really dumb things when my mind just starts racing and I'm like, oh, I'll just do this. This doesn't matter. And then it fucks up royally. So, and then I have to clean up a big mess. So.
It's sort of like the foot and mouth syndrome, but like with actions, I guess.
Yes. That's a good. Yeah. I'm going to have to come up with a term for that because that's usually what happens. And if somehow I've been able to just like make it through all those situations unscathed for some reason, I mean, I kick myself all the time, but so anyways, we're back. Going to talk here tonight about season 8, about the show in general. Maybe down the road we'll have a guest or two on to help us kind of unpack some more things, but we're just going to keep tonight pretty informal.
Yeah, and I think too. I think our next thing I think we have agreed on in the past. We're gonna finish out our Dunkin' Egg stuff just to get that one wrapped up, and then
we actually have quite a few episodes lined up. We've got a lot of guests that are going to join us. Yeah. We're going to get back into minor characters. We have an analysis of Sansa, which I'm actually pretty excited. I've been reading a lot about Sansa's parallel to some historical female figures, and I think, again, season 8 helps us lay that groundwork of where we think Sansa is going to go. I mean, I think everyone kind of thought she was going to go to this, but now we have confirmation.
Yeah.
So let's hop back to season 8. You were saying something earlier that season 8 will be rewatchable because of these big moments, and I agree with you, because I think when you start season 8, it's easy to get through these 6 episodes. Yeah, they're a little longer, but you know, once the plot gets going, you're kind of hooked to see where it takes you.
They feel like they just go.
They feel like they go. And we can talk a little bit about whether that worked out as well as it should have or not, but I do think it's rewatchable. I will say, and you said this earlier as well, that when you go back and rewatch earlier seasons, sometimes you skip over some of the quieter episodes. I actually think that season 8 will get more people to go back and watch more of season 1 and season 2, like the first 8 episodes of season 2 before Blackwater, and more of the conversations that occur in season 3 and 4. I think those episodes are going to get a re-examination, and I think people are going to not necessarily to contrast them with, you know, the spectacle and the, you know, loud noises that season 8 made or season 7 made, but you know, as you said, we didn't get a lot of that in season 8. I think universally, episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, is probably the favorite episode of season 8 for most people, it seems. So, you know, I wonder if those earlier seasons and those quieter episodes, those, you know, as they termed them, people in rooms talking, characters on a stage, like, you know, an actual play, like a Shakespearean play, you know, are those earlier episodes going to get, you know, are they going to rise in people's minds as being better than what maybe we thought they were?
I mean, I think so. I mean, like, a lot of those episodes are really good. It's just, they're not gigantic moments. Like, those episodes are what hooked us in the first place, because they weren't boring. They're not boring. You get to learn those characters, and when it's happening, it's great. It's just not those, like, it's just not the episodes you're thinking about looking for. It's just one of those ones that made that built up to, you know, season 2, season 3, you know, all those culminating moments, and that's what those episodes are. And it's just really getting to, like, know the characters, like, intimately, pretty much. And it was, you know, really good writing. Season 7 and 8 didn't really have a lot of that. It just had big moments. Seasons, you know, I think season 7, people think it falls a little short, because I think they tried to have those sort of intimate moments, but it was a lot of awkward silences in a room. and there was a lot of it, and you had like, a lot of people in one room, and there was no dialogue. And I think that's where maybe season 7 gets a little bit of a bad rap. Whereas like season 8, there wasn't a lot of those moments that happen in episode 1 and 2. But it wasn't a lot of awkward silence. They stopped that. I mean, there was a little bit of it, but they didn't spend too much time on it, and it just flowed because they only had 6 episodes, so that kind of worked. Like season 7 could have been 5 episodes, honestly, with all the filler they had in it, and I think that's where it kind of gets like crapped on a little bit. It's not really that bad of a season, but whereas like the action is concerned, some of the stuff doesn't make sense, but I mean, it happens.
Well, and I think that season 7, which I'm not sure if season 7 or season 5 is my least favorite season. I go back and forth on that, and maybe we can talk about that here in just a minute.
Yeah, because we'll talk about it in just a minute, because I have a weird relationship with season 5.
I agree, and I think there are characters in season 5 that aren't present in season 7 that I like Stannis, and other plots that I enjoyed more maybe in season 5, not their execution, but I was excited for Dorne. I was excited for the North Remembers. I was excited for Sansa in the Vale. I think the fact that all of those either abruptly ended, like, the North Remembers just went nowhere, and Sansa in the Vale didn't happen, and Dorne was a real travesty. I think it makes season. Sorry, I was just going to say. I think that makes season 5 worse for me.
Yeah,
because you had source material. I mean, even in the earlier seasons when the show went off the source material, they either actually did it better, perhaps, than the books, or it was just slightly, a lower grade than what George gave us in the books. Season 5 just was so not dark. I don't have a problem with dark. That doesn't bother me. I'm an adult. I like gray characters. I like tragedy. I like all those things. So it's not necessarily that season 5 was just this, it's like someone on top of you just continually thumping you, terrible event after terrible event after terrible event. But it was just executed poorly. And I think the tone was just completely off from what they could have. And the fact that they really didn't use the source material as they could have.
It's one of those things. It's like the later seasons kind of retroactively made season 5 worse, I think, too, in a weird way. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff in season 5. Don't get me wrong, but I think them not following through with a lot of stuff, like basically, like they, killing off the sand snakes in season 7. It's like, what was the point of that whole plot line? When you did that, like it kind of just. It didn't culminate to anything. It was just in the books. It's they're there for a reason, and I understand. Like, there's a lot of things that you're restricted to on TV. I mean, with actors especially, it is hard to do what George does with his characters, where actors will disappear for a while and they'll show up, that's that doesn't really exactly work for TV. And I think a lot of this, maybe a lot of the reasons maybe season 1 and 2 maybe have fallen short at any point in time is because of that and because of budget, because there's a lot of families, and there's just random families that pop in, for book 1, and they don't show up till book 3, and they have a couple things, and then you hear a lot about them, and between, like, as we're discovering with our minor character episodes, like, a lot of these minor characters are actually doing a lot, and you actually discover that they are doing a lot, not by them being on screen, but just by word of mouth from different characters throughout the series, which is really cool,
Yeah.
But it may not translate so well to over a TV series, I guess.
Yeah.
But the weird relationship I do have with season 5 is I think some of the better episodes come from it. Like, when they're good, but then, like, there's just a lot of filler too. It's kind of like season 7, but I think it's a little more strong. It's a little stronger than season 7 in that aspect. I think the good episodes are better, but the bad episodes are worse than season 7. Whereas, like, season 7, there's filler. It's not great, but it's not like terrible. None of the episodes are terrible. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, and I think people can look at season 5, and that's the crossroads, right? That's where the books and the show start really diverging, and David and Dan really put their train into full speed ahead. We got to get this done. And so I think that we've talked about this.
I honestly, continue.
Well, I was just going to say that we've talked about this on the podcast earlier, that, I've always viewed seasons 1 through 4, even though there are changes in those seasons.
Yeah.
But very similar. Seasons 1 through 4 as adaptation.
Yeah.
Season 5 through 8 perhaps as inspiration. Now, again, like you said earlier, the books will be very telling about how closely they're aligned. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just so hard to. So I've started rereading, and I've actually just last night finished A Game of Thrones, and I rushed as fast as I could because I'm now ahead of them, but I'm trying to. I want to get closer to, not a cast in my. I don't know that I necessarily want to follow it along with him, because I think reading one chapter a week, I'm just not going to be able to do that. But at least if I'm like within that range and I can think more about, their analysis is obviously superb, but
what you should do is follow Girls Gone Canon, read their chapter that they're doing, and then read Not a Cast chapter. And then that way I don't know, because the way that Girls Gone Canon reads chapters, I kind of want to start doing that, because that gets me, like, it's like I've been going through, like, I've been randomly, like, just I'll throw on, I'll just like just scroll through Audible, like, I'll just click on one of the A Song of Ice and Fire books. I will just scroll through, like, I'll just go up with my finger and click on a chapter, and then I'll just listen to it for a few hours, just whatever chapter comes up. And that's what I've been doing.
Nice.
But it's just because, I don't want to commit to reading the whole book again right now, but, like, I really do enjoy the chapters, as they come through. So,
no, it's been fun to start a reread, and I'm so OCD that I have to go through it like in order. Mainly because I'm just so hopeful that Winds is going to come out next summer, and I can kind of time it to be done not about the time, but a little bit before to get prepared for that. But anyways, let's talk about some of the plots that happen in season 8. R plus L equals J.
Yeah.
And again, on reread of book 1, there are so many clues laid for this reveal, for this backstory, all of these things that point to John. Of course, we may. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, were we wrong in the implications of R plus L equals J? And how do you think it necessarily, like, okay, so here's what I'll say. I think, and I like season 6. There are a few things I don't like about season 6.
I mean, season 6 is all fan service, so of course we like it. No, it's good fan service. It's good.
It's good fan service.
But
from a dramatic standpoint, that reveal, that those flashbacks, the flashbacks that started in episode 2 of season 6. When we go to the Tower of Joy in episode 2, I think we go back to the Tower of Joy maybe in episode 3 and then episode 5. And then we finally get that reveal in the Winds of Winter, episode 10 of season 6. That is a powerful fucking moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was done perfectly well. Like, all of those flashbacks were done perfectly well. Now, did we think do we think John's heritage we made it important to the end game? Or is the importance his relationship with Daenerys and how it affected them versus any potential for John to sit on the Iron Throne? And to be fair, I never once believed John would sit on the Iron Throne, and I never thought he would take the reins if he was even offered them. Like, I just didn't think that was going to happen.
I didn't.
But I do agree. Sorry. I do agree to an extent that there's a lot of people out there asking, well, what the hell did R plus L equal J even matter? And I think that's being a little ridiculous in that sentiment. But I think it should have. Like, we didn't get any moment of John just kind of stepping back and talking to Sam about it.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to Daenerys. I mean, yes, they all talk about it, but it's never stated. It's never, specifically discussed. It's never, how do you think they got together? Why do you think they hid this? Why do you think my father, Ned, hid the secret? Why, all of these things. It doesn't seem like it matters. I know that it matters, but it doesn't really seem like it does in these later seasons.
This is one of the things that makes me excited for the Winds of Winter. Yes. Not only because Stannis is going to live through the Battle of Winterfell, but and our duty has been done. But also we're gonna get these moments explained, and I think this is kind of what I'm talking about, where rewatchability of these shows of season 7, 6. Well, yeah, I mean, I think 6 is pretty. I love. Actually, I've rewatched episodes, or not episode 6, but season 6. I have rewatched that one, in its entirety. But these moments are what's going to really shine throughout. I mean, there's going to be a lot of differences. Don't get me wrong, too. I think some of the endings are going to be the same. I think R plus L equals J is going to really matter. And I think, I don't know. I think maybe the the tragedy of Summerhall might come to a head in one of these books, to where we can actually understand why Aemon went to the wall, because there are a lot of parallels between Jon and Aemon of them going to the wall, even though they were the rightful heir. So we could get some of that, it's just those little moments that we're missing that kind of take away from what we were seeing in season 8. But if the Winds of Winter or Dream of Spring's out, we read those and then we go back, just as a reference, just to appreciate the show once more, because there's a lot that goes in that show. It's not just the writing, is spotty, but the DP, all the cameramen, the special effects, everybody that did it, that like made that vision come to life. They're going to have a job for life, because what they did with a $90 million budget, where, probably 10 million of that was gone to actors immediately, right, is insane, so.
Well, I don't think there can be any question that production quality, cinematography, music, visual effects, that second to none. I mean, we're talking Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're talking Star Wars level.
It's almost like
on the small screen.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I mean, it really is, like, say what you will about, like you said, the writing.
Yeah.
And even the writing, its various leaps and bounds, or it's various gaps in logic.
Yeah.
At times, it's still decent.
It would work if it wasn't a Song of Ice and Fire. It would work perfectly fine.
Yes,
it would be just a cool fantasy series. That it would work. It would work, but there's books and there's and I think that's and obviously there is problems that are not book related, but we've also got to see like a lot of these special effects post-production guys, women, they whoever, we got to see them kind of master their abilities. Because they really did. I mean, because if you look at Drogon season 5 and look at them,
oh my gosh,
like it's come a long way. And
and I was not saying you were, but I was never someone during season 5 who complained about.
Oh, no, me neither. No, me neither. Yeah, like I'm not.
Dragons, even in, I mean, okay, they looked kind of weird as babies, but I mean,
yeah,
who really cares? They were babies.
But if you go back and watch them, I'm not saying it looks bad. A lot of people say it looks bad. I'm not one of those, because I know what bad looks like. I mean, the polar bear from Lost was terrible. The smoke, that was all terrible looking. I mean, granted, that was years ago, but like go back and watch that. That is not holding up well.
Right.
And maybe Drogon season 5 doesn't hold up well, but maybe, I don't know, but it doesn't. It never bothered me. But you can definitely tell.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That like they've gotten better.
He looks real. I mean, he looks like a real monster.
Yeah.
And I hate calling him a monster because he's not a monster, and his mother wasn't a monster either. But anyways,
a sidetrack here. Do you listen? Do you listen to the Dana Buckler show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Dana is really freaking funny when he talks about like CGI or going to a movie theater. It's
yes.
He's very particular. But anyways, I don't know. Just he would be. He hasn't watched I think he's planning on watching.
Yeah, so the Dana Buckler Show is a podcast. They cover lots of movies, and we actually had Ashley Schlafly. Jeez, sorry, Ashley, it's late. She was on for episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, in our season 8 coverage. We had a great time with her, and but I'll be excited to hear his take on Game of Thrones when he finally watches it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Dany.
Okay.
I think Daenerys was one of the best characters this season. And I think Emilia Clarke was one of the best actors this season. And I don't know if it's because, she knew, oh shit, this is some monumental acting that I have to do. Not saying that she was ever a bad actress. But she really brought the A+++++ game.
I think what really helped her out this season is, in the books you get her internal monologue with all the characters, which is a big problem with some of them. But Daenerys not Daenerys, but Emilia Clarke has gotten a lot of criticism about not being a great actress, and because she's so stone-faced, but like that's what she's doing in the book, and that's, I think, where Sansa, the character of Sansa, gets a lot of flack from the fandom, because she thinks one thing. She thinks she's, and you hear all her doubts and whatnot, but then she's so stone-faced, and you get that information from the books. Like you can. Because like Tyrion, it's in the show too. Tyrion's like, oh, Lady Stark, you might survive us yet, just because she's doing, courtesy as a lady's armor or something, she does that. But this season, she got to be, Emilia Clarke got to be more emotional out front, and she got to show off her acting chaps a little bit better, her her acting chaps.
You put the get on
Drogon with your chaps. Okay.
No, I think you're right. I think that she, or all of them, all of these characters, if you go back and we follow even Ned to an extent, all of these characters are outcasts, or they are people who are
true. Wow.
Yeah, they're all outcasts, or they are people, or they are characters who are just emotionally and traumatically wrecked.
Yeah, and
they've created for themselves, like, probably the person who most snugly fits into the feudal system of Westeros is Catelyn Stark, and she herself makes it seem like she's an outcast, being a Tully in the north, worshiping different gods. Her kids have red hair and auburn hair and blue eyes, except for Arya.
Yep.
And so her feelings make her feel like she's an outcast. So all of these people, to an extent, feel like they're outcasts, and especially for women. And as you said, Daenerys and Sansa, they're in very vulnerable positions. Yes, Daenerys births dragons, but these dragons are not large enough to really do anything effective. Yeah, yes, they kill children and they burn the masters and all of that in A Storm of Swords, but it's really not until the end of A Dance with Dragons where...
Well, they don't know if they killed the children, or she doesn't know.
Right. She
wonders, but
she wonders. But yeah. I think if we're going based on the show, I think we know that Drogon killed the child. But even then, they're still in tenuous situations. They're still very vulnerable. They've seen all these people around them, their family members, be murdered and betrayed. So you're right. Outwardly, especially Sansa, but a lot Daenerys, they have to be stoic. They have to be visibly in control, even though internally they might be screaming, or they might be crying, or they might be thinking, why am I doing this? Why would I go down this path?
I think this is why Lena Headey gets away with like being the I mean, she is probably the best actress but on the show, but it's just funny because I could just totally see Cersei feeling like she's in control, but like, and feeling like she's like doing what Daenerys and Sansa do just so naturally, but like just everyone can just see through her face, like she's doing those subtle things that she does on screen, and they're
Cersei,
like, oh
yeah. Cersei's inner dialogue and outer dialogue match a lot. You're right.
Yeah, but I think she thinks it doesn't. Like, yeah. That's what I mean. That's why I think her on-screen performance works better, because I think that's intentionally what they're going for. Her little subtle things that she can do is like, it just, I don't know, it just kind of makes me laugh, because like I could just see Cersei like doing her evil conniving stuff, turning away. The person knows exactly what she just did, and then she's like, oh, yep.
yeah. But I think I still, hopping back to Daenerys, I'm still very frustrated by the way, I won't say they turned her to a villain, though I think a lot of people will characterize her as such. And there's actually people going back. I mean, last night I just read her final chapter, and
oh yeah.
She her final chapter in
Plant No Trees.
No, I'm sorry, a Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
And she has no second thought on tying Mirri Maz Duur to the pyre, and actually has one of the Blood Riders whip her to keep her silent. And when she enters the flames, Mirri Maz Duur says, you're mad. And Daenerys just stone-faced says, is there so much, I can't remember how the exact line goes, but how far is it from madness to wisdom? Meaning they seem so far apart that I think they're closer than what they appear.
The whole like madness, greatness, madness, wisdom thing is, I mean, it is pretty like it's not subtle in her storyline. I mean,
no,
it's definitely not. But I mean, what I took from it though, from this entire time, was her father was, Mad King Aerys, like he was the Mad King, and that's why it wasn't subtle with her. And then she had to deal with her brother being broken. I mean, there's even that thing where they had to sell his crown, or sell their mother's crown, and after that he was never the same.
Right.
And it's just one of those things where we're missing the Blackfire plot, because I think you said this so perfectly, like Daenerys may have to burn her way to Westeros, and when she gets to Pentos, she's gonna, have to deal with Illyrio and know that Aegon Fagon, it had this pampered life where they were constantly on the run from assassins. But, if she finds out, most likely there were no assassins. It was just people whispering and,
right. They were either made up, or Varys sent them. But with, but then had them stop somehow. I mean, that's, either one is terrible. what is apparent to me is there is absolutely foreshadowing that Dany's going to burn King's Landing.
I think, yeah.
And I also agree that there is character development done throughout the series that would make her capable of killing innocents. But as you just stated, the context is very important.
Yeah.
The timing is important. You know, it doesn't excuse. And see, I think here's my now I'm really going to get going. My problem with the debate that is happening is, you know, we live in very simplified times, in my opinion. We don't. Everyone kind of runs to their corners, and you know, if you say something against a character or an issue that someone disagrees with, you know, our defenses go up. I think one of the problems is when you say that the Daenerys stuff, you know, just doesn't work because you can't understand why she decides to target innocents, or you can't understand why she would burn a city after it's surrendered, you know, on and list the thing. Yeah. And then the response is, well, it's been there the whole time. You know, this event is foreshadowed. She burned people alive since book 1. Yeah. But I don't think the show did a good job as it should have. I mean, this is a fundamental character to A Song of Ice and Fire. This is a fundamental character to Game of Thrones. This is one of the final what the fuck moments. It might not be the exact what the fuck moment that George gave them. That might be King Bran.
I think that's King Bran.
Right. But it's very important to get this right. And so when you have people saying, well, I don't understand why she burned the innocents or the people who surrendered or just the people who were in the city, or, you know, well, you know, in the books, I think it's going to go that she burns King's Landing first and then goes north to the Wall. You know, all of these things. I don't think that those, and I'm not saying people are dismissing those arguments. I think that they're getting thrown into, well, obviously you don't know, you haven't understood the foreshadowing that's been laid or the character development that's been laid.
Yeah, it's just kind of,
that's a lot different than, I don't think it worked that well. I mean, that's what has frustrated me about the discussions back and forth, especially on Twitter. And I've just tried to step out of them for the past.
Oh yeah, no, it's really unfortunate I think it's calmed down a lot.
Oh, it definitely has. Thank God.
Yeah. Because it was,
there's that meme from, I think it's from Titanic. Like the old lady, like it's been 84 years. Like I feel like it's been 84 years.
Oh no, like
since the finale aired.
Yes. And I think that's why I stepped away. Like I still was listening to the audiobooks. I just kind of stepped away from the community. I didn't even mean to be honest,
right.
But it was just, I kept seeing like, I got on Twitter and I got busy, but
that's
like,
it was almost like it was
worse for me because
Facebook is just really terrible. It was almost like divine intervention. Like,
yeah,
we accidentally locked ourselves out of our Twitter, and then we had already decided, well, we were going to take a week or 2 weeks to, you know, try to get a guest or try to come up with a retrospective or whatever. And then it was just like, you know what?
Yeah,
we have exiled ourselves north of the Wall.
Have you seen that picture of Kit Harington in the club, like dancing, and he's like all sweaty, like, but he's just like, he's just dancing in this club, and
I have not.
And it goes, meanwhile, beyond the wall, and he's just like, it's really funny. So this petition thing, I know this is probably old news at this point, but
oh yeah,
Okay, the one thing I want to say about it, I mean, the petition is for the writing. You know, the people were specifically mad about the writing, and so a lot of these actors came out and said it's rude. You know, but they're not. And basically, they defended, you know, production and all this stuff, and you know, that's not really what that petition is attacking. It's just Dan and Dave. That being said, that petition is really stupid because there's no way these actors are coming back. They don't. The contracts that would have like the legal process to get these contracts for these actors back and just to make it work is going to be really, really expensive and unreasonable. That's probably going to be, you know, just probably triple the amount. I don't know. I'm just snowballing there, but it's going to be a lot. But then also just these actors are done. I mean, they're tired. You know,
right?
They don't want to come back. I mean, I'm sure some of them do, but
well, I think that this is where fandom gets really ridiculous, and you know, it's a lot like reading Sansa, and like you said earlier, in her mind, she wants to scream and she wants to slap Joffrey and she wants to push him into a pit of spikes, which I would be happy if she had done that. But in reality, how can she do that? And, you know, I think too often we're thinking about these people as a character on a show. And, well, why didn't they make her do that? Or why didn't they write this better? I mean, this is just so easy. Why didn't they write this better? So, well, let's sign a petition and make them write this better, and then everything will be fixed. And then you forget, like you said, the fact that they're going to have to rehire all these people. They're going to have to build sets again. I mean, they have to do all this stuff that's just not practical. Like it's
yeah.
Maybe if you want to sign a petition just saying, okay, I'm going to sign a petition saying I didn't like it. But there's no way you can change it, so I just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just crazy. But
the only way I could see that working out. I mean, granted, they probably still have. I don't know about now, but had to yawn apparently in that. But anyway, so I think like the contracts are going to be insane. I mean, like you have to hire lawyers to write these contracts, make sure they're not, you have to do all of that over again. And it can't be the same contract. I mean, it's going to be a mess. And then it would be a complete mess. I mean, because it would probably take 2 to 3 more years to even start to reshoot it. I mean, if they wanted to plan it out, I mean, you could reuse a lot of the same scenes, but still, it'd just be a complete mess. It's not going to work. It's done. It's over. It's over. Right. Get over it. What you should be petitioning for, if you are one of those petitioners, and I'll petition this with you. Let's get an anime or cartoon version of the series that follows the book T to T.
Yeah, I was looking at some
visually, it'd be great. Let's do that petition.
Yeah, I was looking at some artist work done on DeviantArt last night. Some of the characters, and I was thinking, oh my god, if this was an anime or if this was a cartoon, it would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
it done really well.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be like anime style. Like, it just make it a cartoon. I mean,
it can be. Yeah, I mean, it can be any. You know, I sometimes use anime and cartoon interchangeably.
I usually I don't know, because you don't really see a lot of American cartoons with like big story arcs, whereas a lot of like Japanese cartoons and stuff is
definitely. Yeah.
Is anime style. It's that. But, so when I say anime, I more correlate it to like overarching storylines. But
okay. All right. Well, that makes sense.
With the, because I mean, I don't know.
It can be any style. It doesn't have to. Yeah.
I mean, I still look at that style because I think that's the only style where there is a cartoon with a actual storyline.
Yeah.
To it. So
actually, some of the cartoons they've done, or animations, I guess you could say, animated work they've done on some of the history and lores.
Yes.
The show have been done pretty well, and that's.
I did like that. Yeah.
That's not exactly. I don't think that's exactly what we're talking about here, but even that I thought was done really well, and really stuck close to the book details, much more.
I mean, there's a lot of animated stuff that looks great, and is actually for adults. It's not for children. I mean, this could totally be one of those things, and I think with the right animator, the right director, I think they could do a very good. But hey, you know what? Someone start that petition.
Yeah.
Petition HBO or whoever.
Yeah.
I don't know if George has if he can give the rights to anyone else, or I don't know. I'd rather have HBO have their hand. I'm not that I want George to have his hands on it, but I think HBO does do a good job of.
I think an HBO animated series that it would need adult. They would be able to have the adult content that the books have, which I think is necessary to tell the story.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Arya sailing west and Sansa becoming queen in the north. I always thought Arya would sail away.
I did too.
And actually,
either that or she would die doing something.
Yeah, I kind of thought that she would be presumed dead.
Oh, that's cool.
And then kind of reappear and take on a new persona, and her family would think she was dead, but she was actually alive. And so we as an audience, or we as readers, would be like, oh, okay, she's alive. But she's like, there's just nothing here for me anymore. Yeah. And sort of, I mean, obviously that specifically didn't happen, but sort of, she just kind of says, the North, there's just no place for me there anymore. There, I'm not going back there. I'm going to sail west and see what the world's. And I like that. I really like.
She is literally no one. She doesn't want to be. Yeah. She doesn't want to be Arya Stark. I mean, she does, but she doesn't want to be, a lady. She's not a lady.
She's rewriting what it means to be Arya Stark.
Yeah.
She's not the kid she was. She's not the lady that society thought she should be, and she's certainly not the murderer that she became. So she's becoming an adventurer. She's going somewhere where her focus can be on what's out there, what's next, not who am I and what happened to my family.
And she'll be an adventurer until she takes an arrow to the knee. People will get this. Maybe you won't, but I think some of our listeners will get that.
Okay,
it's from a video game. It's from Skyrim. There's these town guards you talk to, and every time you talk to a town guard, doesn't matter what town guard it is in that game, he'll go, I used to be an adventurer like yourself until I took an arrow to the knee.
Oh,
and it's literally every town guard in that game. He'll say it to you. So,
okay.
But it's now that you know it, you'll see it memed because it gets memed on Facebook. Maybe not so much anymore since it's getting to be a. Well, no, people still. It's the last Elder Scrolls game, but anyways, side track.
Sidebar. Sansa is Queen in the North.
I mean, honestly thought that would be a thing that would happen. That or of the Seven Kingdoms or something.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how she would be one of the Seven Kingdoms, but it just it seemed like she'd be a queen. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of thought they would choose to a degree who their ruler was going to be, and so I could have foreseen Sansa taking not the Iron Throne because I never thought the Iron Throne would survive, but I think it makes sense. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of questions to her just turning to Bran and saying, "Oh well, the North fought for its independence, and we're never going to be part of this anymore. So thanks, but we're independent." And no one says anything, and no other kingdom says, "Whoa, no, wait a minute. You know, I'd like to be independent, or we'd like our rights back." I mean, I think again that
what's weird to me too is the Iron Islands asked for their independence. They should be not a part of but that was just kind of overlooked too, because when Yara and Theon show up to Dany, they want to be like, basically the offer was, we'll give you our ships if you give us independence, pretty much. I mean, that was, and Dany, and Tyrion specifically, tells Dany, it's like, what if what if the other kingdoms start asking for independence? And she goes, well, they're free to ask,
right.
Which is weird because they don't really explain it. I mean, I know it's a different king, but still kind of Dany was on their side, and then it was kind of like a jumbled mess at the end because
it's kind of implied at that small council, or not small council, at that great council, that they are free, but they're there.
Yeah.
And they take part in the vote when even though Daenerys was murdered, technically speaking, from the victor side, the people who won the battle and are now in control of Westeros, she was their queen for a while. So I would think her edict would stand that, I freed the Iron Islands. They promised to fight for me, and they promised not to reave and rape anymore. So
something too, just something weird. I know we're getting into writing issues, but how did Jon get captured when he has his Northmen there? Like, why wasn't there a big battle?
Well, the implication I took is that he turned himself in, which is
it is a Jon thing.
Stark move. It's totally a Jon thing. It's totally a Ned thing.
But with the way the Unsullied have been, like, I don't know if I would have done that if I was Jon. They're just.
Well, yeah. I mean, people have made a lot of jokes. Yeah. The fact that they could have, they could have had a boat go out with Jon and then circle back and come back and be like, okay, well, the Unsullied have sailed for Noth, so you can come back and everything's fine. You don't really have to do this. I mean, yeah, that's funny and all, and I think that's okay, that you've poked a little bit of a hole there in some of their plotting, but that's not going to happen. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, Bran Stark is not going, or whatever he is. We'll get to him in a moment. He's not going to lie to the Unsullied. I mean, if the Unsullied survive the Butterflies of Noth, they're likely to hear, "Oh, hey, that that Jon Snow, he came back and he's ruling and he's in charge. Oh, well, what the fuck? Well, we're going back there to fight a war now.
It's bad because like Grey Worm show, it's like they just kind of ruined him for a character for me. He just becomes kind of like this bitter villain that he never was at the end. And and I guess that's kind of Danny too. It's just this is the point that these things should matter more. And I've seen other people complain that why do the Unsullied have all the power? Why are they in control of the city? How would any of these people, the Northerners and the Vale Army and the Riverlanders and the Dorne and all, how would these people just show up and let the Unsullied still kind of be in control of King's Landing? Like, they would probably kill them. Yeah.
And I think that if they had just taken the time, to make Grey Worm, conflicted about, he's lost Missandei, he's lost Daenerys, he's been thrust into, I'm in this awkward position where I'm holding the city, and then I have this massive army of Westerosi show up on my doorstep.
It would be almost like a Barristan Selmy moment.
Yeah.
Like that would be, I could totally see Grey Worm getting a chapter where he's having to do something like this. Yes, maybe. I don't know if it'll go down in the same order. I think Danny will go north, and I don't know if a lot of this will happen, but I could totally see like a chapter where someone's holding a city and it's another. Well, I guess I can totally see it because Barristan's doing it right now, maybe. But that's what it reminds me of. But they just kind of skip over it.
Yeah. It could have. You just sit back and we talked about this on the last episode that you sit back and you just kind of think, man, if they'd just done 10 episodes, they could have really fleshed a lot of this out. They could have made it more impactful. Back to our earlier conversation about the earlier seasons that, anyways, they could have just done a better job.
Honestly though, I think it's kind of an odd situation because like HBO kind of trusted Dan and Dave to do right by the series, and I don't want to say they didn't. I just I want us to be clear here. Like, we absolutely love this series. Yeah, this is the reason we started reading the books. It's the reason we're in the fandom. It's the part of the reason. It's not part of the reason we started the podcast. I should say it is part of the reason. It's not the whole reason we started the podcast. But it's just one of those things. I do think like if you wanted to finish it up and you wanted to like speed it up, like why couldn't you have just passed it on to another director and just had it go on for the 12 to 15 seasons that it could have been? And like a lot of people, and I think it's a lot of not bashing people who don't read the books, but I think it is a lot of people that don't read the books get worried that it's going to get the Walking Dead syndrome. And it's like, no, there's an actual ending plan. There's something there. It's just if they would have actually, stopped to breathe, because it's not Walking Dead. It's not like you're at a fortress, it gets overrun, you beat the bad guy, you have to evacuate because you get overrun by zombies. Restart. It's not that, there is, it's basically like a historical history fused with fantasy. I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, it's, a timeline from, like a 10 to, I don't know, but like maybe like not in the books, but like a 10-year period of war and what happens in it and the crazy shit that happens. And actually, Brendan B. Fish got me into Tides of History, and I've learned a lot from that, and a lot of Game of Thrones makes a lot more sense to me now that I have an understanding of what went on during the Wars of the Roses, because there was a lot of wars going on. Because pretty much the Wars of the Roses was called the Wars of the Cousins during its time, like when it was actually going on. And basically the Italian banks were basically the banks of Bravos.
Yep.
The iron, and then I don't know, there's just a lot of similarities. And then a lot of lords and nobles were investing in each other's. So like, I think one of the Yorks or something had to hide out in the Duke of Burgundy's territory at one point in time in the Wars of the Roses. It's really confusing, but it's like it's politics. It's family politics to a T, and it's nuts. So it all makes sense. I don't know. It's another side track, but you know.
No, it's a very compelling but complicated historical story that George is trying to emulate in his series. And there's a reason he has these thousands of characters and these thousands of plots and all this, because it's what really happened. I read a series by Dan Jones, who's a British historian and military. I think he was in the British military as well. I haven't got to the book on the Wars of the Roses, but right now I'm reading about. I just finished Henry the First, Henry the Second, and I'm getting ready to start Richard the Lionheart. So, and that of course has its own dramatic flair with his sons fighting over this massive kingdom that he built in France and England, and but I'm looking forward to getting to the Wars of the Roses, because I feel like I know a lot about the Wars of the Roses, but I feel like there's a whole lot I don't know about the Wars of the Roses.
You know, one thing that I didn't even know. Okay, so you have knights running around, right? But they have gunpowder at this time, so they have fucking cannons. Like, it's just weird to me thinking about knights with cannons battering castle walls. Like, I'm just thinking of
and that's one thing that I think is a little not a little different. It's a lot different. Is the time period that Game of Thrones is set is actually a little more closely aligned to the 11, 12, and 1300s of Europe and England and Ireland.
Yep.
The actual, castles and technology and techniques of warfare. The political, though, I mean, that is rife with politics, obviously.
Yeah.
But the historical event that he bases it on comes later in the 1400s and 1500s with the Wars of the Roses. So, yeah, you're right. And I actually don't. So now I'm really getting off track here, but I don't. When I watch something about the Wars of the Roses, I love the character work and I love the characters. I hate that they have guns, and I hate that they have gunpowder and cannons and all these type of things, because I think that and to be fair, those aren't used in tremendous, it's not like,
well, because you have to pay for those. Those are specialized soldiers.
Those are
and they were usually mercenaries.
Yes.
So a lot of those people who fought in the Wars of the Roses actually fought in like the Spanish Inquisition. They fought in the what is it? The Burgundy Wars or whatever. They fought whatever.
I think most of them were German mercenaries. I mean, the Germans had a lot of mercenary units, which again goes to your point.
I think too.
Yeah, it goes to your point that
British longbowmen too were hired a lot too. They made their rounds around. But all those wars were going on within the same time period, and basically it was the same group of people warring. Like they just hired all of those people. Like, and then they were all backed by the Italian bankers, pretty much. Which is, I don't know, it's really cool. But
which a recommendation out there for people if you're, it's definitely not as intricate as Song of Ice and Fire, but if you're looking for something that still has the same flavor of medievalism and feudalism and these bigger than life characters, go read the Accursed King series. Which is about the Philip the Fair, who was a king of France. And not to give anything away, but it starts off with him stealing and framing the Knights Templar, and them kind of putting a curse on him and his lineage. And then you get this series of books that details his sons fighting over the throne, his grandsons fighting over the throne, his cousins fighting over the throne, poisonings, murder, rapes, incest, Italian bankers, Jewish bankers, really playing this huge part in the dynastic struggle. What's always really surprised me is some of these nobles they're just, and it's true in A Song of Ice and Fire as well, other than their blood and the fact that they have a castle, they're kind of fucking ridiculous. And and they're so, like, especially there's these characters in the Accursed King series that they're just so shitty to these bankers, and these bankers are lending them millions of dollars to keep them in power, and they're just like, I'm not gonna fucking pay that. But I would have. Anyway.
This is okay. One thing too, George. Okay, so the medicine in A Song of Ice and Fire that's practiced. I mean, it's a fantasy series, but a lot of the medicine technique or the medical procedures they're doing, I mean, that's 19th century stuff. Like that's, stuff they're doing in the Civil War. Like that's how advanced that is. They weren't doing that, and actual. I mean, some of it they might have been. I don't know. Right. I'm not an expert in that field, but this is stuff I've heard throughout the fandom, and it makes sense with a lot of the stuff I've read. But it seems a little more advanced than what it should be for where they're at. In A Song of Ice and Fire, but also like these banks, like it is like the Iron Bank. Like if a monarch wasn't paying for their debts, they would find someone who has a claim to that throne, and it could be a cousin, it could be a bastard brother, and from what I've read, like bastard sons of kings aren't really looked down upon. Like the ones that are recognized. Like the king finds high offices for these people to be in. It's not.
You're saying in the real world they did.
In medieval Europe, but there is still a lot of parallels, because like if the monarch's not paying something, they will support the younger brother, and there is a lot of history with brothers fighting over a crown, because it's not black and white, but back in the day it was a huge, like, you couldn't be a nobody and take the crown, like, and by nobody I mean like you can't be from us, like if you're the only reason, what is it? It was the Yorks and the Lancasters, but they were kind of married by blood. And then there was they were cousins by blood pretty much. And then the other one that took over,
the Tudors, and they were related. They had a claim. Yeah, they were of the Lancaster line, and they married. The way they ended that war is the Tudors of the Lancaster line married the Yorks.
Yeah, and then I think they were related anyways, like
oh yeah,
distantly.
they would all been.
So it's about claim, like they were all claiming a royal bloodline, like you. So unfortunately, you couldn't be a peasant from whatever and expect any lord to follow you, because basically the lords of any highborn lord would just probably look to the lord of, or the king of France and be like, we are with you now, put someone we want, yeah, it's just one of those weird things. I don't know, we definitely got way off track of season 8.
We got way off track.
But I don't know. It's been so long. I don't know. But this goes. I mean, it is.
Again, we love this. I mean, this shit is fun. I mean, who would imagine that the Wars of the Roses is something that your eyes were glossing over in high school history about, thinking, oh, this is crazy. I mean, I did take a medieval history course in college and I loved it, but it's not something I thought, oh, well, I'm probably never going to be interested in this. Now I'm obsessed with that type of stuff because I find it so very interesting. We got way off track there with real medieval history, which is sometimes,
well, I mean,
sometimes even more interesting than what happens in A Song of Ice and Fire. Although I think that George has put everything from his imagination and real world into A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm not sure in this real world history is crazier.
And honestly too, I mean, this is stuff that interests me. So, if we want to do, if anybody that listens to this wants us to do like a one-off historical thing where we can, I mean, we'll relate it back to A Song of Ice and Fire, but maybe we can cover some of this stuff, maybe do some research. I don't know. I mean, it's just an idea, spitballing, but well,
and this actually, I think is, and I'm sitting downloading Tides of History.
Yes, it's really good.
The Sansa episode, I think, is going to be very interesting from the perspective of you recently listening to some things on Elizabeth Woodville and Elizabeth of York, and we'll get into Elizabeth the First, who is, of course, Henry Tudor, Henry VIII daughter. And there's a lot. We don't give a lot away, but we're going to do an episode on Sansa, kind of like we did with Stannis, where we compare historical and fictional characters to Sansa Stark. I think it's going to be a pretty good episode, actually.
Yeah. I was noticing a lot of, I don't want to say it feels similar. The Queen of Spain, she's the one who funded Columbus's journey to America. God, I can't remember her name. Isabel and Ferdinand.
Yeah.
A lot of their history, I mean, they are not Jaehaerys and Alysanne, but the way they're talked about and like the way they did some terrible, terrible stuff, but they saw themselves as divine people. So, and a lot of their history is, it just like listening to Tides of History to like talk about it, like it's not positive. Well, a lot of the stuff they did was really good, but they did a lot of terrible stuff too. But
right.
But they did it in the sake of being, they are divine, and they have, and a lot of these rulers in the medieval ages did this stuff because they thought they were in the age, they thought they were in the apocalypse, like it was happening. They were in the end of days, like that's what they saw themselves as doing something divine. I don't know, it's weird, but I don't know, I just got a lot of good Queen Alysanne and Jaehaerys vibes from those two. Just listening to their history, and I don't know. I'm sure George is aware of them. I don't know how much he took from them, but I don't know. Like, I mean, it's just something I want to look into more, but just thought it was interesting. So I'm sure, Travis, you'll get around to it eventually. And
it's one I just downloaded. Okay. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one because those are two very interesting characters.
Yeah.
So King Bran the Broken.
Mm-hmm.
Again, going back and rereading the series, I'm really picking up on some groundwork laid as early as a Game of Thrones. And, I think from a very foundational level, a very base level, if you will, excuse me, not foundational level, but a base level, Bran starts off the book. Yes, the prologue happens, which sets up the White Walkers and the magical element. But Bran is the first chapter, and within that first chapter itself, he's learning about, leadership, what it's like to be a man, what it's like to make a decision and have to live with those consequences, etc.
Yeah.
But I heard this interesting perspective.
No, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you double it down with him being the acting lord of Winterfell, and
right. And I think it was Joanna Robinson, maybe on A Cast of Kings or one of the other podcasts that covered Game of Thrones. But she had a good perspective that actually, if you go back and you watch the very first episode of Game of Thrones, minus the cold open, which is the prologue, obviously, the White Walkers.
Yeah.
But Bran is the point of view of that episode. He's climbing. He finds he and his family find the direwolves. He's watching the execution. He discovers Cersei and Jaime making love. He's pushed from that first episode is from his perspective. So the groundwork is there. The foreshadowing is there. I think, again, the character development could have used some significant work because, I remember before season 8 aired, when we were on the Knights cast, and I think Sam chose Bran as the character to analyze, like where he was going to go, what he was going to do in season 8. And I think all of us were just like, who knows what we have a dog joining us, which I love dogs. So
I know. Hold on. Let me.
If it was a cat, I'd be like, get that thing out of here.
No, it's my dog Albert.
I'm Albert.
Yeah,
I love Albert. That's a great name.
Which he's popped. Anyways, he's on my bed. I think he wants down because he's ready for a walk, but he can wait. He can wait, but I'm gonna get him off my bed just because he keeps whining.
Yeah. When we were on the Knights cast prior to the airing of season 8, Samantha, Sam over at Watchers on the Wall, she chose Bran as the character to analyze. And I don't think any of us walked away from that episode thinking Bran was going to be king. I mean, our discussion was either he's going to die because he's part of the magical world now, and magic's going to die out. I mean, we were wrong about that on two fronts because Drogon still lives. And two, we were thinking, well, maybe he'll go into the weirwood net of Winterfell and, kind of be a guardian of the past, which in a way they kind of utilize this season, that, you know, he's the guardian of knowledge. He's the guardian of history, the guardian of stories and songs and, you know, the good and the bad, but he becomes king. And I think it would have been just a more powerful moment had Bran not set out season 5 and had Bran not turned into this lifeless entity. You know, back to your point about season 7. One of the great things about season 8 was they really improved the character work. Arya was a better character in season 8. Sansa was a better character in season 8. Daenerys a better character in season 8. Jon a better character in season 8. Bran a better character in season 8. But he was still kind of this lifeless entity up until he was chosen as king. And I still don't understand if he's able to see the future or not, because when Tyrion says that, you know, Tyrion offers it to him or says he should be king or whatever, Bran says, "Why do you think I came all this way?" What?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like this is the moments that were chopped. I mean, we could have had Bloodraven lessons to Bran, like like how cool would have that been? Like hearing Bloodraven, hey, like, look, I need you to be a leader this way. Like, obviously, I don't think it'll be outright said. But basically, Bloodraven did run the kingdom for a while. He knows how to run a kingdom. But he's taking the lesson away. I think he'll give the lesson to Bran in the book somehow. Like, look, I was not loved. You can't do that. Like, you have to be you have to be loved, but you also have to be you know, basically omnipotent. You know, but because basically, like, you know, Bloodraven could have never held the crown and title like himself. He would have been hated. Like, he would have gone down as another Maegor the Cruel. Which is one thing too about, I'm not going to get sidetracked, but there is a lot of, I think Davos Fingers was the one that pointed this out, like, where, you know, Maegor the Cruel may not have been as bad as what was written about him, because everything's written from, so, you know, because it's a lot of that. I mean, if you listen to what people say about Bloodraven, I mean, God, he's the most god-awful person, and that's, Maesters say it, you know, everybody says it about Bloodraven, you know, like, so it's, but you kind of see Bloodraven's, he's not evil, but he's, you know, kill one to save a million, and that's where, you know, you get kind of the Stannis' storyline coming in, conflicting with Davos. You know, it's you know, everything. You know, one bastard boy. I mean, you know, whatever. Anyways,
but you're right. I mean, had Bloodraven existed, or the Three-Eyed Crow had more time with Bran as a human, not necessarily as a human, but melding that magical, and, you know, the Bran sits out season 5. We come back to him in season 6. The Three-Eyed Crow appears in 2 or 3 episodes, and he's dead by episode 5.
Yeah.
So you don't get those lessons. You don't get that training as it probably should have been. And the way they end Brand is basically he's a data dump. He gets all of this information, and, you know, he says it himself in season 8. I don't want any more. I don't desire. I'm not Bran Stark. I'm not a human. I am something more. So, okay.
Yeah, and
I think again that we just want to point out it's not the conclusions that are made that's frustrating. I have no problem with Bran being king. I have no problem with Daenerys's death, Jon going north, or Arya dealing the killing blow of the Night King. It's just the execution. I think just more time was necessary to make this feel more impactful.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you in the fact that I thought Daenerys was going to die, but in no way did I think she was going to die a villain. It just wasn't there. I mean, it just wasn't like, yes, there was foreshadowing, and I have that in quotes for, people, but I just thought it was there because I thought she was going to be pushed and pushed and pushed to the limits, like kind of like Luke Skywalker. Like he gets pushed and pushed to the dark side, just like Darth Vader. But instead of being Luke, she became Darth Vader and just slaughtered the younglings.
Yeah.
But of course, Darth Vader comes around back to the light side, but it was just. I just didn't expect that. I didn't expect her to. I thought she was going to go down a hero, and it was just weird. But I think it could happen like that in the books. And going back to not the. I always thought she was going to die. I just think it's going to be different. I don't know if she's going to go down the same way. I think she's going to take the same path, but it's going to be against Aegon the Sixth, and not Jon. Not Jon Snow, Aegon the Sixth. I'm talking about Aegon the Sixth. Because in the books, Jon Snow is, Aegon the Seventh, and there's no quarrel there. The quarrel is going to be between Aegon the Sixth. So I think that's where they consolidated a character arc with Jon. But I think it's. Yeah.
Yeah. What I do think will be interesting is I think I would slightly disagree with you that there will be no quarrel there.
I think there'll be a quarrel, but I don't think it's going to be.
Again, back to our point, context will matter because you got to think. So if Daenerys does attack King's Landing first and Aegon the Sixth, again, meaning young Griff, sits the throne or holds the city and she kills him and slaughters, burns the city and kills a bunch of people, she's going to come to Jon in the north, with a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
If she knows, or the realm knows, or whomever, however it's conveyed to her, or she finds out about it, that Jon is the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, then she's going to have some questions about him.
Yeah.
So they're both going to be in this position where they don't really trust each other, but they need each other. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's, again, the context is very important. And one character that I want to end our discussion on the character arcs this season by talking about Tyrion.
Could I getting back to because I keep forgetting to mention Bran, but the Bran thing, well, I mentioned him, but the way it makes sense to me that he is king that I never saw before. I mean, we talk about him living beyond natural, like a natural lifespan. I mean, Bloodraven lived, way well beyond his natural lifespan. Think about how if you're a good king and you live, 200 years, like potentially Bran could live longer because he already is the three-eyed raven. I don't know how George has that in his mind, but I mean, at least 150 years. I mean, that's at least 3 times longer than any monarch usually rules. I mean, you're lucky if you're a monarch living or ruling for 50 years. You know, it's usually your parents and you inherit it at a later age.
Right.
You know, you're not, and then, you know, political stuff, assassinations, but Bran being almost omnipotent and possibly warging into Drogon at the end of this series. He's searching for him, and it seems kind of like he was trying to warg into him, you know. I don't know, but he could live for a long time, and that, you know, him not being able to have children, which I'm hearing may not actually be accurate. Like he might actually would still be able to have children. It just might be a process, but yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, the possibilities. I mean, because I mean, he could rule for 200 years, you know, and be perfectly sane and fine. And through those 200 years, a lot could happen in 200 years. He could slowly change the dynamic into a democracy to where, you know, he could slowly implement that himself. And that might be his plan. You know, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating, but I don't know. It's just interesting that prolonged life of a king, you know, and it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So Tyrion.
Yes.
Again, I think context is important here, and I think from a perspective of the way he's portrayed in the show, I wanted Tyrion to survive. But I don't think I'd have to go back and read some of the stuff I wrote and think about some of the stuff I've said on other podcasts. I'm not necessarily sure that I thought he would survive. And I definitely question whether he'll survive in the books, especially if he's one of the catalysts for pushing Daenerys to burn King's Landing.
It's just one of those things because like he might be, but then like if he gets in contact with Jon, and like the last time they saw each other was when they were on the wall, and they basically said they were friends, you know, like
right.
You know, and then Jon might vouch for him. Then, you know, it's one of those things. It's like I could see him living, and there's a lot of speculation that he's going to get his tongue cut out, though, you know, by Euron too. I just don't know. I don't know now. Like, there's so much that didn't happen that's foreshadowed in the books that doesn't necessarily take away from what we've seen on screen, because you know, like a lot of stuff happened that's not going to happen. A lot of characters are dead that aren't dead, and I'm sure there's a lot of side characters that are alive that are dead in George's mind, you know, like they're getting killed. And I don't know. Just hopefully we get to see what because I think I posted this on Twitter a couple hours ago, but like I was just trying to write this small little comic, and then it just grew. It just like now it's like I'm not even halfway done with it, and I just keep adding crap to it, and it's like it's stressing me out because I'm like, oh, this would be cool, and then I just stress myself out because I'm like, it was supposed to just be something simple, you know, and now I'm like, so I don't know, but
yeah, I think with Tyrion, I mean, again, I appreciate that he's alive.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure. I imagined that there would be a small council at the end, that it would kind of go back to a very similar form of government. I mean, yes, it's a decision made by a group of nobles to pick who's going to lead them.
Yeah.
But it's still a small council. It's still, I mean, they're even in the same room that the small council met in season 2 and 3 and 4. So, and 5 and 6 and 7.
Yeah.
So I just find that I just thought that was not that it was wrong. It was just, oh, okay, well, there's a small council. All right. Well, okay, sure. I don't know. It's, I like that scene. I like this players around that table, but again, okay, we're comparing it too much to what the book may give us.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know.
We don't know.
We speculated about season 8, and I think a lot of us felt pretty confident we knew what was probably going to happen or likely to happen, and it surprised us. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that it surprised us.
And I want to, I want to be clear too. I don't think it was, let's just subvert everyone's expectations.
No.
I don't think it was that. I think it was just rushed, and I don't think it was. I mean, I think that's just it. I mean, they didn't have all the pieces they needed. I think Dan and Dave wanted to rush instead of. I'm gonna pass a little bit of the blame off to them, but not so much, because they did. I think everyone there trusted them, and they were good to have around the set. I think a lot of actors, were happy to see them around. I think that they probably did boost morale, which is, that's a big thing on set. But if you wanted, the only thing is, if you wanted to rush it, you just pass it off. I mean, there were so many people that were probably eager to take it,
Yeah.
take it on. But I do see the issue too with like Walking Dead, when they changed directors after.
Oh, it's terrible. It's just
after season 3. Basically, they changed the director after season 3. And but the thing is too, I'm in film school now. It's like, even though the director changes, that doesn't mean. Well, the thing too, Dan and Dave, I think, had rights. They had like executive rights over directors and stuff. I don't know if Walking Dead exactly has the same thing, because the director changed and then the writing got, like, it went back. Basically season 4 was, the first half of season 4 of Walking Dead was season 3 over again, and then the second half was like this weird like character exploration that just didn't get handled well.
Right.
So I don't know. Now I'm getting sidetracked again, but
yeah.
All
right. So I feel like we've been a little negative here. So let's talk about either a favorite moment or a favorite episode from season 8.
I'm gonna have to say, okay. My favorite episode is by far episode 2, and I don't mean to be negative. I'm not being negative. Like, I'm not negative. Like, well, I have negative thoughts about a lot of stuff, but I do understand where that comes into play. So I don't necessarily think it could have been much different. But my favorite moment is definitely Tormund's drunken scene. Just the him hanging out with Dan and Dave.
Episode 4.
Yeah, no,
at the feast.
3, right? Wasn't it 3? It was
3. 3 was the long night.
3 was the long. Oh yeah, so it was 4. Yeah, so yeah,
at the 4. Feast.
Yeah. Him doing that, him crying, doing. Just like, I think they just gave him, like, they were just like, you just play Tormund, but unchained, like he's supposed to be above the wall. And I think that's kind of what they nailed there. I mean, that's just my favorite funny moment. I mean, I think the like Arya and the Hound's last moment is up there for me, and Arya and Jon, their reunion. I mean, I had waited for that for so long, and even though it was like really awkward, I kind of expect it to be. I mean, like Arya is just trying to be innocent, like he's asking her if she's ever used the sword, and she's like, well, like once or twice. Which technically she's not lying, but it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was I don't know. I thought it was good. I thought it was well done. And
what's funny to me as we've spent an hour and a half or so talking here tonight, couple hours, but we've taken a few breaks that you all will not hear.
Yeah.
We really haven't talked about the Long Night and the White Walkers and the War for the Dawn, and it's just so like that. That's
I feel like,
again, I'm not complaining, but it's so mind-boggling that it seems like that was a whole other season in and of itself, and maybe it should have been in retrospect. Maybe it should have.
I think that's what it is. I mean,
it was. That was almost kind of like the capstone to. Well, not really. I mean,
like the Long Night was like a season finale. I mean,
yes,
it really was. I mean, and then you get the next 3 episodes, and that's what that was. I mean,
I do like. There's still some.
Look, if
some questions I have with the Long Night, etc. But
if I had never watched the series and I turned on an episode, and the Long Night came on, and I sat there and watched it, I would have thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen on TV in the world. Like that, like, because visually it is amazing. It is great. It all looks great. I don't understand the darkness complaint, because I was perfectly fine streaming. I could see everything on my TV, and I don't have it. And I understand too. I think there were some YouTubers and stuff that explained, depending on what device you were watching it on, could have made it a problem where darker. But I didn't have a problem.
I think that's a really ridiculous argument for the show to throw at people, that
the Long Night's too dark.
But you need to readjust your TV set. What? Yeah. That's
no. No, but I'm just saying, like, I not that they were saying that. It's just I'm just saying, like, I personally didn't have.
I didn't either. Yeah, seeing. I mean, I can see it pretty well.
But that's just what I've heard. Like, it could have been a problem. Like, if you were streaming it from like a tablet, your tablet might have. You can't adjust your tablet settings the way you can a TV. But I don't have mine on any special settings either. So I'm not really sure what went on with that, because I know, like, I'm not even going to get into it. That's just, we're getting sidetracked. But anyways, I didn't have trouble with it.
I think my favorite. I agree with you. My favorite, the best episode of the season is definitely A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm going to cheat a little bit, because I think I'm going to say my favorite episode or my favorite moments of season 8 is everything from, and I like the beginning of The Bells, episode 5. I'm not saying I don't like that, but I like everything from the moment where the attack begins on King's Landing as the small folk stream into the city and the Northern Army advances, and you get that weird music. I don't know if it's a drum. I can't remember how the soundtrack goes. But they're just waiting for Daenerys to come all the way up through the Iron Throne to when Dany is killed. Like, I think it is visually stunning. The music is amazing. The drama is intense. Like, it's a really compelling story.
Yes, yeah, no, then yeah. Like, I think.
I mean, you can sit there and
you can nitpick it, but
you can nitpick it, yeah. And I could say, well, and it's I hate Euron Greyjoy. I mean, oh my god, the fact that he like stabbed Jaime Lannister twice is just like, what the fuck. But that's more like, damn that fucking character.
But I mean, it just
and the
goes
okay,
with the way his
the
character
Golden
is
Company, the Golden Company, just what the fuck? Oh my god. Anyways, but it was just very. It was very good, and that's why, even with the problems that I have with The Long Night, that's why I like the episode The Long Night, because I sat there on the edge of my seat, and even watching it again, like it's done pretty well.
If you're like doing production, like film production, like absolutely watch Game of Thrones. Take in like what you're seeing. I mean, from the special effects, from the sound, the music, just everything that went into it is top notch. I mean, it really is. I think the only thing it fell short in is the writing, and the writing was not that bad. Like, it wasn't bad. It's not bad by any movie standards. It's not. It's just, it was a little rushed. A lot of stuff could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but ultimately, like, I wasn't upset when it ended. I was relieved. Some of the stuff I was like, but you know what? At the end of the day, at least Davos is alive.
Fuck yes.
I still think he doesn't. He forgot about his his other children and his wife. But
he's gonna, like, my head canon is he rebuilds that fleet, and I'm dancing right now, people. Like, I'm so happy that
he is. I'm
really also a little stir crazy because it's late, but I'm very happy that Davos is alive. My head canon is he goes to storms in to visit Lord Gendry Baratheon.
And little Stannis?
No, he doesn't have little Stannis yet, Brett. He goes to Cape Wrath and he makes little Stannis. And there's a Stannis in this world.
This it makes it. I wish we had some video, because Travis was dancing, like doing these little, not finger guns, but moving his hands back and forth, doing a little jig.
It's like I can't even explain it. It's like,
oh my god!
If you watch Saturday Night Live, which I don't recommend because Saturday Night Live sucks.
Yeah.
But
the freaking tight pants.
Well, that's Jimmy Fallon.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it's that girl who does Ruth Bader Ginsburg that's a Ginsburg and she dances. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. I'm half asleep right now. But yes, no, Davos deserves that. Like, he deserves to be alive, and
I agree
to help out. Like, he's such a great character. And of course Brienne and everyone. But I will forever, like, that Stark montage at the end of the Iron Throne, like, I could just watch that on repeat.
Yes.
Because the entire soundtrack, I've been listening to the season 8 soundtrack quite a bit, and it's remarkable. It's wonderful. I mean, all the soundtracks are great. But that music, go listen to The Last of the Starks on the soundtrack, because the Stark theme has always been very melancholy, very sorrowful, and obviously we know why. I mean, it's the Starks have been through a lot. This rendition, it's a little more upbeat. It still has that sound of kind of reflection and stoicism that the Starks are known for, but there's a little bit of upbeat to it, and you get the vocal chorus coming in of the main theme. And if you listen to the main theme part, which is a rendition from season 4, episode 10, The Children, when Arya is sailing to Braavos, they reuse some of that music. It's different. It's not it's not like they copy and paste it back into the soundtrack, but the Stark theme is under it, and it kind of drives the main theme forward, which I think is a nice touch that, it seems like the story resolves with the Starks. It's been about the Starks all along. Yeah. Yes, it's been about all these other characters. Absolutely. No question. But in a way, it was maybe always about the Starks. And they get to shine at the end. And I think that's really good. It's done really well. I mean, in the fate that they are handed. Yeah, it's sad in a lot of ways that they have to leave their past behind. But as Bran says in the story, you wouldn't be where you are if you hadn't made the decisions you made. And we were all kind of meant to end where we end.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like their family kind of drifts apart for a while. Then you come back together. You have that thing, but then you have to go back to your separate life. You have to go do what you're meant to do. It doesn't mean you don't care for your family, but it just means, look, I got stuff to do. I can't be here forever. I got to go, I got to do what I'm meant to do. And I think that's kind of what that was, is they acknowledge they all love each other, but they have to, they're destined for greater things. And I don't think Jon was actually punished by being sent to the wall. I mean, I think he always felt like an outcast, so why not be the next king? I mean, even that could become the next kingdom. I mean, like, why would? And then being friends or being family with the main, Bran and Sansa, like, like, you just, it's basically united. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's like they say it's a broken kingdom, but it's kind of not. It's kind of not a broken kingdom because you have 3 family members in charge. Like, it may not be under unified rule, but definitely not broken.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. I think that's it for me, though. I think it's been nice talking about this. It's been too long.
It has been too long. It really.
I can't wait to get back into the book stuff, though. Starting with Dunk and Egg, I think that'll be a good ease back in finishing up the 3rd book. And I can't wait to do some minor characters.
Yeah, minor characters. I'm ready for those. Well, I think that's as good a place as any to end it. You can find me on Twitter at HomelyPillow. And you can find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube. I feel like there's another one, but I can't remember.
We are on Instagram, but you can't find our podcast there. But
yeah, but you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter as well at Planetos Podcast. Our long night is over there, so please.
Yes, and we actually did have a long night.
We did, yeah. It was longer than the long night in the show, but
I should post our I should post our con pictures, like all the ones we got.
Oh yeah.
That would be a good Instagram thing.
Yes, yes.
So maybe I might
for my FireCon.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Sir_Travis on Twitter, and Tumblr, you can find me on Tumblr now. Yeah, I am.
Right.
I did write something.
I have not. I'm ashamed. I have not read it yet, but I want to read it.
Okay, I think you'll enjoy it. I'm at travistalks.tumblr.com. I did write something.
Could you give me a little something, like a little synopsis?
So it's fan fiction, which I did not expect to ever write. And not that I'm saying that I don't like fan fiction. I like some fan fiction perfectly well. But another member of the fandom I got to meet at Ice and FireCon. I don't know if you got to meet him. Heathen King, _King on Twitter. Grant.
I saw him, but I don't know if I probably met him. I don't know. I was drinking the whole time.
But he wrote a really nice essay about the fate of Jon Snow, and I think it was called the Ghost in the Haunted Forest. And so you can go. Like, I'm not going to tell you what his story is about. Go read it. It's really good. So as I was reading it, let me back up. I was having a friend and a coworker who loves Game of Thrones, and I were having a discussion about the fate of a character. And he said something to me. This was about 3 weeks ago. This was like a few days after the series finale aired. And he said something to me, and I was like, that didn't happen. But it started kind of churning in my mind. And so I kind of thought, what if that happened to this character? And so when I saw that Grant had written this fanfic piece, just to kind of, he's a huge Jon Snow fan. But he said it was, instead of writing an essay about Jon and the feelings on season 8 and his fate, he wrote something to show where Jon would be several years after the events of season 8. So I did the same thing. I wrote something about a certain character and where they could end up. There's a bit of a twist to it, so I'm not going to give much away, but it's called A Red Door Painted Black.
Oh.
So you might, from the title, you might understand who I'm talking about, but I'm hoping the reveal in the story works for you, even if you know who I'm talking about.
Well, now I know what I'm doing after I get off.
After we get off here,
yeah.
It's a pretty not a quick read, but it's not pages and pages and pages of content. But yeah, I'm proud of it. I think it works pretty well. It got some great feedback on it. So thanks to everyone out there who have read it. If you haven't, travistalks.tumblr.com.
Yes.
So I think that's a good place as any to end the program. So thanks everyone for listening. We thank you for joining us on this journey through season 8, and we will see you in
2 weeks, maybe. Or
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Probably about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Or maybe early. We don't know.
Maybe, yeah, we're not sure yet.
We're not going to make promises that we can't keep, but 2 weeks minimum.
Yeah, that's our plan. Our plan is to do about every 2 weeks, or at least 2 a month, something like that going forward.
Yeah.
All right, so good night, everyone. We will see you around Planetos. Bye.